Sahil, is there any way for Congress to leapfrog healthcare and get onto tax reform, or do they just necessarily have to deal with healthcare in some way first?
They have to decide what they're going to do about healthcare, Vonnie. They have to either pass it or dispense with it in order to procedurally move on to tax reform. You can't do both at the same time because they're using a vehicle that you can only use once in a year for healthcare. They want to use the same thing for tax reform, and you cannot have both of those going at the same time. So look, Congress is back today. All eyes are going to be on this healthcare bill. There are no more signs of life, it seems to me, now than there were before they left. They hoped to spend last week moving towards consensus, but what Republican senators have been saying in recent days does not inspire a lot of confidence. Even senators like Ted Cruz and Chuck Grassley are raising questions as to whether this is possible. Grassley says he's more pessimistic than he has been. And Bill Cassidy, a relatively moderate, pragmatic conservative from Louisiana, has said that the original McConnell draft is dead, and he's raising questions about this new idea of simply moving to repeal and doing replace later if that fails. So a lot of questions, a big cloud hanging over this still.
Sahil, just talk me through what you're calling in your piece, in quotes, a train wreck of a calendar. I mean, I advise everyone who has the Bloomberg to read this piece. It really is, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And look, that wasn't even me saying that. That was a former Senate Republican staff director for the Budget Committee saying that. He said they're behind on everything right now, the Republicans are, and they have a series of deadlines staring them in the face. Let me explain to you some of what they are. After the August recess, by the end of September, they'll have about 2.5 weeks to do this. They have to fund the government to prevent a shutdown. They have to extend the children's health care program, and they have to extend flood insurance. Now, sometime shortly after that, they have to raise the debt limit, which is a very painful vote that Republicans hate to take. Also, in order to begin the process of tax reform, they have to agree to somewhat easy things like simply agreeing on a top-line number of how much the government should spend and what sort of tax revenues it should target bringing in over the next 10 years. They've been delaying that. They can't even agree on that, and they're much further behind on the appropriations process to start moving spending bills through. So there are a lot of divisions happening within the Republican Party. They're getting no Democratic help because the parties are just too far apart on the principles and the ideology here. So these deadlines are obviously going to complicate things even more, and you can't move to something like tax reform without getting the stuff out of the way.
Sahil, how much of this legislative inertia is going to be blamed on Congress and how much on the administration?
Well, it's up to Congress technically to do this stuff, but the administration isn't really helping by, the president getting distracted with all these other things. His sort of, morning tweeting habits are not helpful, lawmakers keep saying. And the fact that there are a number of scandals involving, at least controversies, that have emanated just in the last week or so, whether it is his son meeting privately with a Russian-connected lawyer during the campaign and not disclosing it, whether it's his daughter and senior White House advisor Ivanka Trump sitting in his seat surrounded by world leaders at the G20, or his remarks to Vladimir Putin privately, as he relayed later, of partnering with Russia on a cybersecurity alliance, which his Treasury Secretary defended yesterday morning, and by yesterday evening, the president had walked it back. So it's just a lot of chaos and confusion that is continuing to come from the White House. And what Republicans want here is clarity to help bridge these divisions, because they view the president as the one person who can do it, and he's not particularly engaged in these budget issues right now.